Hi, welcome to Andrew Buckle book review of Marvel Storybook Annual. This features Marvel superheroes, Captain America, Spider-Man, Thor, the Hulk. Actually, weirdly, doesn't include the X-Men. No Sergeant Fury, no Western characters, which is quite surprising. You would have thought there would have been some Western characters in there. But doesn't also the Avengers. You'd think they would have done a story with the Avengers. Still, you got there. Now, some of the characters, obviously you recognise the characters, but I just wonder if they're actually done from poses from various Marvel stories, because these are not actually Marvel comic stories. They're actually written stories. They're not actually the standard US comics in any shape or form. Very odd. Now, I don't know if this was the earliest annual in the UK for Marvel superheroes, because I know the Fantastic came out in about 68. Terrific never had an annual, but there was Power Annual and a few other ones, but they were probably 68, 69 as well. So this one was 67. So was this the first? Now, they did bring out a World Distributors, and this is a World Distributors Annual. You can see that, World Distributors. They did bring out some 2 or 3 really good annuals, some that actually featured sort of like 1950s characters. I really love those ones. But this one, let's go through it. Some of the drawings are a bit odd, and some definitely look like ones that obviously from Marvel Comics from the US. Now, some are definitely not. I'm certain that I've never seen a pose of Doctor Strange like that, nor of the Ant-Man looking like that. Now, this one looks very much like the issue 110 of Strange Tales, the very earliest Doctor Strange. And you see my copy's got a slight crack there. I think most annuals always seem to have some damage. Obviously, kids get them. You know, I don't know if kids would have been very. I mean, if I would have been, I don't know if I think I might have got this. I don't know. When I was about 6 or 7, whatever it was, it's possible for Christmas. I think I would have been slightly disappointed if it had been stories. But saying that, lots of annuals back then did have that sort of thing. Superman had one. There was Fantastic Four had storybook annual as well. So let's just go through it. But the stories are nothing like and that's in many ways is quite fascinating seeing them. Because you've got here, you can see the contents. You've got the Fighting Fury, you've got all the various things there. Ghost of Ned Kelly, the Guardians of the Tomb, people in super. Now, they could have done an Avengers story. They could have done some Westerns, Kid Colt Outlaw, Millie the Model, all those sort of ones. And maybe, I don't know, Night Nurse or whatever. But instead, they went for some very odd ones. Captain America's Quest, Men of Ideas, The Origin of Spider-Man, which I will have a quick look at. And you can see there, trademarks of the Marvel Comics group. And the artists there you can see, now I don't know anything about MK Powell, Jay Leader and P. Lambert. Fighting Fury. And weirdly, the first story is the Ant-Man. Ant-Man, really a very unusual choice, because Ant-Man had certainly not appeared in the Fantastic or Terrific by that point. So probably people wouldn't have known who these characters were unless they'd been buying them. Now, I suppose at this point, these would have still been in Tales to Astonish. Maybe people would have known who the Ant-Man. Now, that pose is definitely very familiar. Was that issue 35 of? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, let's go for this. Caught in the Web, obviously a spidey web, and you've got a spider looking very odd there. Peter Parker, I should say. And the lizard. Now, that lizard does look like a character from, obviously, the Marvel. That pose, possibly. Not certain. But that definitely isn't. Howl in the Night. I don't think I've ever seen Submariner looking like that. Crossed arms. Did he ever do that? However, there's obviously there, he's battling away. He's obviously bopping the shark there. And you've got another page there with, obviously, he's got his throne and everything. And for some weird reason, diving off that boat there, splashing over everyone. And you've got the Fantastic Four crossword. And you can see someone obviously tried it. What was that? Sue Storm. They got that right. Name of the female member of the FF. Weirdly, after that, they didn't bother. You got hearing organ, name, fuel, hurried, preposition. You think they would have continued. Maybe they just couldn't think of any other ones. The Super Scroll, they could have come out with loads of them. Fantastic Four abbreviation, number 37. FF. That was a bit good. NLW. Where was that? That was 39. Report of recent happenings. Okay. Yeah. Then you got obviously Fantastic Four story. Now again, not one I'm familiar with. Obviously there, the good old Human Torch. And then you got the Captain America's Quest. Probably not the hardest quest. He goes. It looks like some gold or something, jewels at the bottom there. Obviously, the Nazis are trying to hunt for, I think. Nazis have stolen golden art. The origin of Spider-Man. So what does it say about this origin of Spider-Man? So you've got here the amazing, almost legendary career of the fantastic youth known as Spider-Man had begun some time ago in the Science Hall of Midtown High School. Oh, that's good. At least I got that. But, collars and ties were loosened. That's going into some real detail, isn't it? I wonder if that was in the original comic. I do not remember that bit. Collars and ties were loosened. Windows opened. Dry throats cleared. And there seemed to be a general air of restlessness, I should say. The lecturer noticed this and decided to terminate the demonstration. But one student was interested. It's actually a very opposite thing. No, I think there was a couple of other people there, and Peter Parker was watching it, and he obviously just landed on his hand, didn't it? Very odd. Peter Parker wandered over to the display stand to ask some questions. Why did they change it? It was very odd, because it's only about 4 years after it. It doesn't seem makes no sense why they changed that. But one night while on stage performing, an armed burglar broke into... Do we know who was armed? Was he armed? I don't know. However, whatever. Obviously he was later. Yes, of course he is. That's why he shot him, didn't he? Obviously Ben Parker must have done. Daily Bugle, of course, here goes here. After selling as Peter Parker to the Daily Bugle, and Spider-Man continues to battle crime, selling his thrilling photographs to earn a living. Now, at least that's reasonably sort of, which is good, because sometimes we get these origin ones, you think, hang on, that doesn't sound exactly right. But the fire racers, again, these stories are completely different from the comic book. This is quite good. Back to the headquarters, and it's actually quite a sort of surrealistic sort of layout there, isn't it? For home safety zone, you can imagine like a negative zone or something here. Members of etc. etc. Space creates a blockade. Okay, interesting. Oh, got the Dragon Man there, and then on to Puzzle It Out, and also Cushioned Clash with obviously Tony Stark and Stark Industries. And the weirdest of character, I mean, look at that character. Is that supposed to be Titanium Man? Looks like Titanium Man, sort of like Titanium Man, but it doesn't. The Bloated Bandit, apparently. Not best of character name, I don't think. Tomb of Terror, Desert Rats, etc. Rommel's Africa Corpse, and okay, so we've got obviously a bit of a war story there. That's quite good. It's a small world. You've got the Ant-Man, of course. You've got the Ant-Man story earlier on. Marvel Puzzles. Iron Man Number Maze. That looks complicated. What's this? The Iron Man, you can move from square to square diagonally across. Start at the foot in any square divisible by 4. Oh, okay. So 16, 24, etc. Well, what do you do then? That's beyond my skill. The Ghost of Ned Kelly. And also you've got a little one there going across, down. Oh, that's quite good. 32. Oh, right. You should look for 32. And that looks perilous for this guy anyway. That is not a good position to stand with bullets flying back off Iron Man there. Guardians of the Tomb. You've got Doctor Strange. Oh, there's a bit of a problem there, of course. He always often did. Especially hasn't gone up. Obviously he needs a socket there because obviously that's been taken. Obviously he can use the one there, can't he? And again, Doctor Strange obviously in his... Oh, this I love. This is great. People into superheroes. John W. Eliot tells the story of their creation. Ever since the remarkable Charles Darwin. Hang on, what's that got to do? Anyway, Fantastic Four, Hulk, Thor, the son of Odin. And of course you've got the fantasy. It says here, Reed Richards' millionaire son. Not familiar with him being millionaire son. Maybe he was. I guess he was. And he also talks about Marine fighter ace, etc., etc. Mercifully, the powerful ship's autopilot. Doesn't mention about the fact they broke into the ship. They broke? Oh, Star Rocket. The government dismissed him as a crank. Well, I don't know about that. He built the rocket, didn't he? I don't think he couldn't have been dismissed as a crank. He built the rocket, just they weren't letting him fly it. I thought that was the point. And he, of course, went on and did it anyway, because that was the way Reed Richards, because to make certain he gets there before the Russians and all that sort of stuff. And you got there Dr. Bruce Banner. I love the bit they mentioned about Bruce Banner. Hulk, it says here the Gamma. Dr. Bruce Banner was the handsome but brooding scientist. Handsome, brooding scientist. Great stuff. Bruce left the safety of his bunker to drive madly. I think he was driving madly. Into the safety of his... obviously, the boy had wandered into the test area, which was a bad idea. You'd think they would have actually made a bit better security, but that's a minor point. But we've got Thor, of course, the Thor as well. What did they mention Thor? They mentioned Thor here, a power I shall never use except in the cause of justice, etc. Of course, at this point, we didn't know anything about Odin, the son of Odin. I don't think he just said Thor. Obviously, he probably knew if he knew his mythology, I guess. However, the Bull of Minos was the next one. I love those clowns there. That's great, isn't it? Maybe that was the ringmaster in the circus of crime. And they're obviously going through some temple. And you've got Thor there pointing to the sea for some weird reason. I'm certain there was a good reason for that. And on to Doctor Strange again. And an old plane, a tiger moth. And jokes from Doctor... I love that bit. You have to say jokes from Doctor Strange. It'd be like jokes from Reed Richards. Imagine they would be exciting as well. This one, some of the jokes are great. Comb the woods for the enemy. I can't. I've lost. Jokes back in the 60s were pretty... I don't understand that. The end of the Hulk. Oh dear. So what's the end of the Hulk? Oh, did we find out the end of the Hulk? No. He goes and gets some fishing tackle. That's about it. The end of the Hulk. And then we're on the back page. I love it. These are really good. I love these sort of books. They have a very quirky charm. That's the thing about these books. It's just really weird. Why is always the thing. I mean, they wanted to do a storybook. Why didn't they do a story from the actual stories? Wouldn't that have been slightly better than, though some of the stories feature Englishmen. Maybe that's a big clue. There's a few Thor ones here. And if you look at some of them, you think there's a mention in them. Not all, but some. So maybe that was the reason, just to make them, because not many Marvel comic stories, particularly until a lot later into the 70s, I don't recall many. Please put in the comments below if you can think of any stories that were set in the UK from Marvel Comics in the 60s. Just try and think of any. There might be one or two. Maybe one of the characters briefly went there. But I can't think of any, so maybe that's why they did this. In the 70s, definitely, because we had Thor. He was in the UK for a bit. The Avengers, did they? I think there was a few stories where they did it, but not many. Still, really worth checking out. Marvel Storybook Annual. Fascinating little sort of unusual experiment, I think, because obviously I don't think there was any more after 1967 of these sort of books.